Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Mind Body Medicine for Chronic Pain podcast. I am thrilled to welcome to the podcast today Cynthia Austin. Welcome, Cynthia.
Thank you for having me. This is lovely to be here today.
Absolutely. It's lovely to have you. So why don't we start with you just introducing yourself so the audience knows who you are and what you do in this field, and then we will go from there.
Okay, and like you said, I'm Cynthia Austin, and what I am most passionate about is helping people change their pain experience. I have a coaching practice called My Pain Coach. I am a national board certified health and wellness coach, and that is just a fancy long title that says that I help people make difficult behavior changes, lifestyle behavior changes. And these are the things that help that impact their health in a positive way. So when doctors mention that, to go home and try different things for chronic illness or chronic pain, but you can't seem to get started, or you get started and you can't stay in the practice, that's my profession. So I support people in building the bridge to helping them overcome the most challenging health conditions that they experience. And I know that this works because I lived with debilitating pain for over 50, almost 50 years, so 5 decades. And that was before I became a provider. I switched professions to do this work. So by my late 40s, I was walking with a cane even within my home. I was 100 pounds overweight, and I spent most of my time living in my bed or in my recliner.
Wow.
Um,
Oh,
it was
man.
really, really
Wow.
low, really low.
Okay. So, well, all right. Let's wade into that because certainly people listening relate to that, and people here get that, and clearly you've been there. So let's go into your story wherever you want. I mean, for the audience, Cynthia and I were talking a little bit beforehand, and we were both acknowledging like these stories are long, but wherever you want to start, tell us about your story.
Yes, thank you for this opportunity. So my story started at 7 years old. That's when I had my first migraine. And they weren't just headaches. A lot of people think it's just a headache. One side of my entire body would go completely numb. I would lose my ability to speak, to get I mean, I knew what I wanted to say. This was 7 years old, but I could not get the words to come out. And I would end up in the dark room with severe pain for sometimes for hours, sometimes it was for days. Um, that was difficult, but the hardest thing was no one explained anything to me. So I was
Mm.
the fear, was building just from the beginning. By 9 or 10, I was put on, adult blood pressure medicine because this was the 1970s, and that's all they
Yeah.
had. They didn't have the abortive medicines like they do now or any of the other daily medicines to keep migraine away. So another aspect of my story, while this was all going on, I lived through repeated trauma, over many
Mm.
years, different types of trauma, and with each stressor that came into my life, my harm alarm, my nervous system, it just got louder and louder and louder. Obviously, I didn't know what the language was telling me. I didn't know to do anything, so it just kept getting louder. Um,
Yeah.
this is a good point to say, and you probably tell people this too. You do not need trauma with a big T. You do not need
Mhm.
to have a heavy history like me. Everyday stress like regret, worry, self pressure, those kind of things, those keep the system going. So I wanted to just make that mention. It does not have to be trauma with a big T, because the biology is still the same for everyone.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
over the years, my pain began to spread. I was also diagnosed with many different type of medical conditions, vertigo, the neck, back, leg, hip, just everything.
Mm.
I grinded teeth, those kind of things. So I was suffering physically greatly, but I was also suffering emotionally. And at the time,
Yeah.
I had no idea that the 2 were connected. It would
Right.
it would take another 30, 40 years to figure out that I had things that need to be worked on.
Yeah. Yeah. That I'm so glad you're saying that because to me now that I know what I know, it just feels so obvious. Of course they're connected. But when you don't know, you don't know. Like you don't know that migraines and all the issues, all the different symptoms that you're talking about, you felt throughout your whole body. It's if you don't know, they're emotional, you don't know.
No, and something that played into this was that my parents were very poor. They were born in the '30s, so it was a different
Mm,
world, but they believed the doctor was he was the most intelligent person in the room, and so I
mm,
just went in and they were just doing, the pill shot surgery, and I just accepted it. And no one made the connection, not even my
mm.
doctors, because by the time I was in my 40s, I was telling them, "This is what's going on in my life. My son almost died." "Oh, that doesn't have anything to do with your pain." The day we came home from the
Wow.
hospital was the day that my low back pain started hurting, and that
Mm.
was in my 30s, but, so nobody was connecting it, not even the doctors, not even the doctors.
Are you saying that, like, you intuitively saw there was some connection, and when you would bring it up, the doctors would kinda dismiss it? Like, is that what you're saying?
I would tell the story of how it happened, like, he almost died,
I
I
see.
followed him in an ambulance for almost an hour, and I could not reach
Oh,
my child, and
wow.
and so by the time I got to the hospital, long story short, I was left in the hospital, my husband at the time never came we got me to the hospital, but then he never came up. None of my family came up. I was in Chapel Hill by myself with this child, and it was a traumatic experience for my child and myself. I slept on a bench. So that's what I
Mm,
told him. I said, "Look, my son almost died. This is the story." And then I slept on a bench. That's what
yeah,
I thought was the problem.
of
I
course,
slept on
of
a
course.
bench, and then when I told him when I came home, the day I came back home without the support that I needed,
Mhm,
my back started hurting, and then it
mhm.
progressively got worse because I did not understand the language.
And, let me just jump in to say, I'm glad you're bringing this story onto this podcast because I hear this kind of thing all the time from clients, from other people in this world where emotional traumas very often come with some kind of physical, maybe trauma is not quite the word, but emotional traumas come with, like, you're out of your element. You're doing something different physically as well while an emotional trauma is going on. So the idea that this massive, I mean, it just sounds truly shocking what you're were dealing with at the time, that along with that, you also slept on a bench. And the fact that the sleeping on a bench becomes the whole story when that's just one little part of the story, that's the physical side of the story. And the emotional side of the story is ignored when but your body, I mean, clearly that's what you're feeling. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, so that yes, it was the emotional trauma of everything. I mean, it was just one thing after another, and I didn't connect it specifically, but I kept trying to understand the situation I was in and what to do. It took many years. Eventually, we'll get to that point, but like I said, I was diagnosed with all these different things. No one was making the connections, and like I said, in 2014 was when it was literally the lowest point. And,
Mm,
what the trajectory what changed it was I saw a picture of myself, and I didn't even recognize the woman in the picture. I call it my pain brain coma picture
wow.
because I look dead, and I don't even know where the picture came from. I'm in a car in the front seat, not driving,
Hmm,
but there's a picture from here. And I don't know
hmm,
where but anyway, so I've got this, and it looks like a pain brain I call it my pain brain coma pic. So, it was
mm,
really, really stressful. I was in my 2nd unhealthy marriage. Again, like I
mm,
said, I was walking with a cane, I was 100 pounds overweight. It's interesting, my 80-year-old mother at the time, she drove me to my doctor's appointments instead of reverse how you would think it
wow.
would be.
Right.
Um
Wow.
yeah, most of my days were lived with panic attacks, severe
Mm,
anxiety to the point where I did not wanna leave the house. Obviously, depression, I always say anxiety and depression, that is the brother and sister of chronic pain. They will be coming
yeah.
to dinner with you.
Yes.
So this is
Well said.
they will.
Yes.
You can expect it if you're in chronic pain.
Yeah, yeah,
So that was the lowest point. Um,
yeah.
I was in pain management. I was receiving, medications,
Mm,
epidural injections, and the only other thing they had for me was an offer of a spinal cord stimulator. And that
wow.
was the pain management, and I think it still is the pain management handbook. And
Yeah.
it was not helping me because it wasn't
Yep.
in that realm that I needed help from.
Exactly. Well, and will you just I mean, I know you're saying you've been diagnosed with many things. Would you just give us a few of the diagnoses you received so people can, like, relate to that?
Yes, like I said, migraine started when I was 7, and then over the years, this is a lump together, these aren't in order, but vertigo, neck pain, neck and shoulder pain to the point I learned that eventually came from, when I go into professional things, my neck pain, that would come up, but back pain,
Mm,
hip pain, my leg, my right leg was in a complete vice grip from the middle of my thigh down into my foot to where I would have to
wow,
swing my it was really weird, I'd have to swing my leg around to walk sometimes because my leg did not wanna work. This is
wow.
all neuroplastic. It was all
Yeah.
neuroplastic. So, chronic muscle tension, sciatica,
Mhm,
carpal tunnel syndrome, chronic numbness and tingling in the legs and at times in my arms and hands. Eventually, I got the fibromyalgia diagnosis.
mm,
Chronic
yeah,
fatigue, insomnia, brain fog, those also are like brothers and sisters of, chronic pain. Stomach
mhm,
issues, chemical sensitivities,
mm.
unexplained rashes, and also grinding teeth.
Wow. Okay.
I
Wow.
may be
So
leaving
you've
some
really
out,
been
but
there.
yeah, 50 years of living in this, and every time I'd get a new diagnosis, say I got the vertigo, and then I'd go in and you gotta go do PT, you gotta do this, you do that, but eventually it would go away, but I would never understood what made it go away, and I never was understanding what was bringing it on. I mean, today I do. I
Mhm.
understand. It was my brain the only language it knows is sensations, was saying, "You need to do something. Something has to change. You can't live this way. You're not authentic. You have no agency. You've got to change something." Um,
Yeah.
and what changed was that I got angry. That was the first emotion I got to touch really solidly.
Okay.
I was
Okay.
angry that pain management was treating the entire chronic pain community this way. It was not about
Mhm.
me anymore. I realized that through doing some advocacy work, there were millions upon millions that were behind me. And so I
Mm.
got angry and I started doing research and I started researching pain because I couldn't accept that there were no answers. Pain is the number one reason people go to the doctor. It is
Right?
and when I was doing the research or the advocacy, it was only this is a lot of money still, but it was only 2% of the NIH's budget, which we know has now been
Wow.
slashed even further. So
Right.
pain research, this was a few years ago, so the numbers may have increased. So what I learned though is that it changed my understanding of pain completely. I learned that pain is produced by the brain 100% of the time, and it's based
Mhm.
in threat perception, it's based in
Mhm.
survival, and so when I started learning this, it started changing my understanding of my own personal experience. One of the f
Absolutely. Let me just say,
Yeah,
audience, I hope you're listening because this is correct. I hope you're listening. Wait, and let me just ask to make sure this is clear. Are you saying like this was after you hit that rock bottom
yeah,
in 2014, then you started doing this research and you found this stuff out? Is that what you're saying?
yes.
Okay, awesome.
Pain
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so go
yeah.
ahead.
Pain management started, when I was not getting better according to their handbook, they started
Mhm.
accusing me of being drug seeking.
Course. I have oh my god. I haven't been there with drug seeking, but I've been there with being it's my fault. And I am one who will follow directions basically to a T.
Yes.
And yet still, if you do one day off or you go on vacation or you know what I mean, it's the patient's fault. I hate that. I really hate that.
Yeah, yeah. And that's where they go when they don't have anything left. And so
Yeah,
that is a huge thing that is a huge mission for me is to get pain management and mental health professionals working together. This has got to change. It has to change.
yeah.
So I was doing the research, and at the same time, I was reading all this research and just doing my thing, doing what I had to do with my doctors, but I was playing with these different research papers. One research paper really still stands out to me, and it was about social. I can't remember the exact way they phrased it, but social pain from social rejection, that's what it is, social rejection. It lights up
Mm,
the same areas as
mm,
structural pain, as acute pain,
mm,
so it starts moving
mhm,
around. So anyway, that I started learning things like that, but at the same time, and this is a really long story, so I am gonna cut it short, I accidentally ended up connecting with an incredible
mm.
therapist. And
Beautiful,
I worked with
beautiful.
her. My family was I was raised, you psychology, you didn't do that. They messed you up. You don't do that. So,
Yeah.
but I was secretly excited to do it because I wanted to get better. I wanted to do things that would change what I was experiencing. And I worked with her. This was 2016.
Mm,
Yeah, and so I worked with her for 3 years every single week. I went every
mhm,
single week, no matter what. I went and did the
mhm.
work. With her help and with domestic violence help, I left my second marriage. I was 50 years
Wow,
old at the time, and
wow,
that was in 2019 when I actually left North Carolina and came back up to
wow.
Ohio, where I had lived
Mm,
before at a recent time. But when I did that, I had $4,000 and a suitcase of clothes. I was
wow.
determined I was going to change my narrative. Very
Yeah.
determined.
But that is just so bold to hear that story. Wow, that's powerful.
Yeah, when I tell people, it's sometimes it's like, "I can't believe this really happened," but it really did, and literally, I think we can't prove this, but that was the first step, literal step that I took of autonomy, of agency, that I took a step forward to protect myself. My whole life,
Yeah.
I had been trained in a way or programmed in a way to just
Mhm.
let whatever happened, happen to me. And this
Yeah.
was me going, "Oh, no, not anymore."
Yeah.
And I took that
Yeah.
step, and I will say and some people have these miraculous stories, and some people other things that I had, my back pain and stuff took time, long time.
Mhm.
My
Mhm.
migraines, I have not had a full-blown migraine since the day I left in February
Wow.
2019. I've had
Wow.
little when I first left, I started having little pieces of this weird feeling in my body. I'm like, "That feels like it's part of the migraine." And so little by
Mhm.
little, my brain was still trying to throw it out
Mhm.
and say, "No," but I kept doing what I was learning, from Howard Schubiner, from David Hanscom, from John Sarno, anything that I could find, and I was reading. And so that's how I
Mhm.
started moving it, is I was doing the
Mhm.
research, I started working with the psychologist, and then it started the path. Well, 3 days after I left, I also started the path for, my educational path to become to sit for the boards. So
Mm.
I was determined that this was gonna change, and then also that I was gonna do something for the chronic pain community, because not
Mm.
only was I suffering, there was millions behind me.
There's so many of us. Truly, there's so many of us. Right.
Yes, and yes. So I kept studying, I kept reading, I was applying everything that I was reading. I treated myself like a science experiment, following like I
Cool.
said, following the doctors that I was reading. And there's lots of other people that I was reading. I was reading about emotions and feelings and how they're created and where they're coming from, learning about just autonomy, being able to speak your truth, because that was something
Yeah.
that I had to learn. I l
Same. Agree.
literally
Feel you on that. Yes, same.
yeah, it's like because
Yep.
sometimes when you're trying to say have that conflicting conversation, you literally can't get the words up and out. That is
Yeah.
proof that there is
Yeah.
something there that needs to be worked on, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So,
Agreed.
yeah, so I started learning how to feel safe in my body now that I was really safe. Right?
Mm.
So I was working on calming my nervous system because I was learning about the polyvagal theory and things like that. And so I was interrupting I was working on interrupting the fear and then also embodying, trying to remove the bracing and the tension. And my
Mm.
muscles would be like just cramped tight. And when I'd have
Mhm.
to literally start going, okay, there's nothing going on here. Why am I tense? There's nothing going on. Relax. And then start
Mm.
working again and then
Mhm.
5 minutes later, I'd feel the tension. And that is the
Mhm,
retraining part, and that was the science experiment that I was doing is things like that. Um,
mhm.
I also
Let me just jump in to say, like, I'm totally with you and my client's experience. I've just heard many people say the same thing. It is a, um, it's a lot. Retraining your brain is a lot. You know, like the way you're saying, like every 5 minutes you have to push yourself in a different direction mentally. Yeah,
yeah.
that's how it is. I'm glad you're saying that because I do think a lot of people find that, I don't know, a little shocking or overwhelming, or like, how many times do I need to remind myself that I'm safe? Or how many times do I need to remind myself to allow the symptoms rather than resist them? Or how many times do I have to remind myself, like, this is emotional, think psychologically, not physically? And it's, for many people, myself included, it's a lot of times. You do it a lot of
It
times.
is, and I will be very forthcoming and transparent. My mom passed in October,
Mm,
and
I'm
honestly,
sorry.
I had pain come back up because I was dealing with some
Yeah,
some family stuff and because that's where my traumas were from, right? So when
sure.
that
Yeah.
happened, I had to go back into that world. And so my brain wanted to go back to the pain identity and I had to go, nope, we're not doing that. And so it didn't take long because I had done the work. I had laid the foundations, the neural pathways were there, the wiring and firing together were there. It was just a matter of reminding my brain I was not the same person that went back into North Carolina. I was not the same person. So
Yeah.
it did not need to produce these sensations as a language saying, "You're in danger. You need to get out." Because I was able,
Yeah.
no, I'm handling everything. I'm speaking my truth. I'm using my agency. I'm using my autonomy, and I'm dealing with my feelings and my
Mhm.
emotions. So that was the retrain. So I just want to be transparent about that. Sometimes things
Mhm.
happen, life
Oh,
and
1000%.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it took time. So that was 2019 when I left. 2020 is when I started, I guess things started really shifting where I could walk further. And but there was a lot of unexpressed feelings that I was still working through, a lot of emotions that I was still working through. I had because I was once I moved it back up to Ohio, I started seeing therapists again, but eventually that dropped off, and I started really just doing nervous system
Mm.
work to start building this embodied safety that had been stolen from me for 50 years. And I had to. It
Yeah.
wasn't, there was no one that was going to instill it in me. It had to come
Yeah.
from internal. And that, you mentioned just a minute ago, the hard, the difficult. That's what's really, really hard is when you have to be the one to keep getting back up. And
Yeah.
that's the hard work. Um,
Yeah.
that's what
Yeah.
it requires, grit, determination, and the willingness to say, "I'm gonna get back up." Yes, that rogue wave just knocked me down, but I'm gonna get
Mhm.
back up. As soon as I get my bearings again, I'm gonna get back up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yes.
so the pain changed, and it gradually lessened. My capacity started changing, started building, capacity, stamina started increasing. Um my experiments that I was doing was I had moved from living unconsciously, just moving through life, to practicing and embodying safety 24/7. So if I would listen to my nervous system now, if I woke up and I'd had a rough night, maybe for whatever reason I didn't sleep, I will plan my day accordingly to
Mm.
account for that rather than just gut-wrenching push through. I learned how to be kind to myself. This is a big
Mhm.
thing for most people is to learn to be kind to themselves,
Yes. Me too. Yes.
right? So all of this was happening at once at the same time in 2021, I sat for the boards, and then I built the coaching program literally from the blood, sweat, and tears of changing my own experience.
Yeah.
And when I work with people, I bring a deep embodied understanding of what I'm asking them to do because some of these experiments,
Yeah.
they're scary. The avoidance issues, if you avoid speaking your truth, setting boundaries, saying no, letting no be a complete sentence, things like that.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
the program is built on that. It's also built on how to do the work successfully. It's a some of it is just trial and error, the experiments
Mhm.
over and over
Mhm.
again. So all of those diagnoses that we ran through, those are gone. I've also reversed
Awesome.
pre-diabetes.
Oh,
I
wow.
had high blood pressure. I had high
Mhm.
cholesterol. I lost 100 pounds without weight loss surgery. So
Uh-huh.
that's the short version. There's a lot of twists and turns in there, but that is the short version. After nearly 5
Wow.
decades in pain, I now seriously, this is people say this and people, like, just scoff it off. I seriously lived the life I never dreamed. When I was
Yeah.
14, this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to help people, and I'm not so sure that the universe didn't bring what I needed to do this work, right? Um,
Yeah.
so
I mean, it's truly a miracle to hear that you're like, people don't believe this, or people think like, oh, she says she had all these problems and now she's doing great. But you are embodying that truth. Like I mean, it's just so clear what you're saying. Like, this actually is my story. It actually
yeah.
is real. And I get that, because like that is what this work gives to people. That, like, I know that experience too. And it is so powerful, and it's kind of shocking. It's like many people don't, they hear this and they think, "Oh, that's crazy. I can't believe it." But like, here you are saying like it's true.
Yes, I mean, I'm proof that chronic illness can be reversed and that chronic
Yeah.
pain can be reversed. Um,
Mhm.
Anybody that is listening, they deserve it to them for themselves to at least check this out. Even if you're doubtful, you can still
Yeah.
check this out and just play with it because in the very beginning, I was coming out of pain management and very distrustful. And I remember, I wanna say it was Howard. I was listening to a video of his, and I'm sitting there the whole time going, "I don't know if I believe this. I think this is smoke.
Mhm.
This is just smoke."
Mhm.
And then but
Mhm.
the more the experiments that I did, the more I sat down and I would write things out, not just think about it. I would write things out about what actually happened and why did I think that, and that helped me get to know myself, and then that's how you start changing. When you start
Mhm.
I metacognition, thinking about what you're thinking
Mhm.
because it's driving the
Yeah.
pain. It's driving the pain.
Yes,
The other thing I wanna
it
say,
is.
even there's also this the divide that it's structural or it's neuroplastic. My belief, and you may disagree, but I think it's a combination. Even if you have a broken bone, you are having an
Mhm.
emotional experience about that broken bone. This
Yeah.
work works, and it's useful to help before surgery
Mhm.
and after surgeries, and when you've
Mhm.
had a broken bone. This it's very helpful regardless of
Mhm.
what type of pain you're living.
Mhm.
Now, will it get rid of your pain from a broken bone? I wanna be very clear, no, but it will help
Mhm.
you cope better with the
Mhm.
pain.
Yeah, no, no. I love like thinking flexibly about this work, because there's a very straightforward, like, you know, doing emotional and psychological work is the cure for neuroplastic pain, period. Like that is a known fact.
Yes.
And thinking flexibly about it is awesome. It's like this can help with many things. Like I mean, and there's the first interview guest who I ever had on this podcast was Christina Sarno Horner, who I work part time in her practice, and she's a therapist and is
Yeah.
the daughter of Dr. John Sarno. And she said the list of ailments that were considered TMS in my household was much longer than the list that like goes out to the public. And I know that I really believe that in my bones, that this work, like, flexibly thinking about it, it can help with many, many things.
Well, you think about the way I like I said, that picture that I saw of myself, and I saw the weight. And so
Mhm.
this work helped me lose 100 pounds, literally. Without
Yeah.
this work, I never would have lost it, and I'll tell you that story. I went in to do the weight
Sure.
loss
Please.
surgery. I went to the doctor, had my first, appointment, and then what the insurance that I was with, you had to go to do a psych evaluation. It was an assessment. You didn't actually talk to anybody. You just sat on the computer and you answered these questions. And also go
Mm,
to a nutritionist 3 times. That was their
mhm.
requirement before they would do it. So I did the nutritionist. Wow, did I learn so much information. Wow, I had
Cool.
so much information. So I started playing with that, and then when I got the results, from the letter in the mail, I always jokingly say that I flunked the test, but I didn't flunk it. You can't flunk it. It just was very indicative that I needed a little extra work before, because it's been proven that some people are not really great candidates for the weight loss surgery
Yeah.
because of
Yeah,
the
yeah.
emotional side of their
Yeah.
journey. So this is
Yeah.
why they did this, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me, because it was literally
Wow.
how it jump started all of this. So they sent me the letter, "If you'll see the therapist one time, we will consider once she talks to you, we will consider doing the weight loss surgery." So I went in and talked to
Mm.
her, and what she said made more sense than doing the surgery to me. I
Yeah, no,
also
that totally makes
I
sense.
also
Yeah, go
didn't
ahead.
I knew I couldn't I started pretending like I had had the surgery and started trying to eat the diet
Yeah.
that was
Wow.
required. That
Yeah.
was enough for me to go, "There's gotta be a better way." I was not allowed to have Pepsi, which was very hard for me at that time, and it
Sure,
was
yeah.
very hard, and also, I have pictures of these little plates of food, like 1 or 2, cantaloupe balls with a piece of ham and a pickle and some cottage
Mm,
cheese, and I was like,
mm,
"This is what I'm gonna have to do for the rest of my life."
yeah.
No. And so that helped me, and then also the therapist, I started losing weight through with the information I got from the nutritionist, and I started talking to the therapist about what was going on in my life, and I was getting validation, I was getting heard, I was getting seen, and
Mm,
literally she gave me the right to breathe, and to
yeah.
right to exist, to take up room
Yeah.
in this on this earth. So when I
Yeah.
started feeling all this and understanding all this, I started seeing myself differently, and then that changed my eating
Mm,
habits. It was
yeah.
not about the food. It was not about
Mhm,
the food that I was eating. It was what I was
mhm,
doing with the food and why I was doing what I was doing with the food.
mhm,
I had to decipher
mhm,
all of that, if that
mm.
makes
Yeah.
sense.
Oh, this is making a lot of sense. I'm like, I wanna see a transcript of that and, like, underline certain things. Like, literally, I'm in my head, I'm underlining, um the therapy gave you the right to breathe, and it gave you the right to exist. I totally relate to that. I once did an episode of this podcast that was called "Do You Deserve to Exist?" which was literally about what you're talking about. I would never have consciously before finding this work probably hard to say, it's hard to remember. I don't know that I consciously would have thought, like, I don't deserve to exist, but on an unconscious level, I did believe that, and I was operating from that perspective, and this work has gotten me out of that, and that is wild. That's wild. So that's the first thing I'm thinking. Second thing, I was, actually, in a session with a client recently who was talking about, I wonder what you think about this. Since we're talking about weight loss, I wonder what you think about this. A client who was saying, hunger is always real, but it's not always for what you think it is. So she was saying, like, I will feel hungry and sometimes she's like, "I always have to take it seriously, always, because sometimes I'm hungry and I need food, obviously." And then she was also like, "Sometimes it has nothing to do with food. Sometimes I'm hungry for something I'll never get. Sometimes I'm hungry for emotional connection. Sometimes I'm hungry for a life I can't have." What do you think about that?
Oh, the last one, what you said, "The life I can't have." I lived I hid for 50 years. I was
Yeah,
not allowed to be who I was because it was either looked down upon in my family, or I wanted to be a therapist, right? And this they're saying, "Oh, no, those people mess you up. You can't go to
right,
college because they mess you up in college."
right.
So there was all of this, so I had to hide that these things that I wanted to do and be. But yeah, the life living a life, I agree with you, because the hunger is always real, but you're right, it's not always about food, and that's what I was doing. My hunger was to be treated kindly. My hunger
Yeah,
was to be seen and
yeah,
valued and cared
yeah,
for. There were so many things that, financially, it was fine. My life was fairly comfortable, but it was
mhm,
emotionally, it was a desert.
yeah,
And then I was not allowed to have feelings. And so all
yeah,
of this went into the eating at one point. I hadn't been, overweight for most of my life. I had been, a healthier weight.
mhm,
But when things kept getting progressively worse psychologically for me, um,
mhm,
I just was eating. It was also protection. People eat for
yeah,
protection to keep other people away. That
yeah,
was also a defense mechanism. So when I really got in there and started understanding that if I was going to the refrigerator to go get the ice cream or the candy bar, whatever it is, it doesn't matter what
mhm,
it is. If you're not hungry, but you're just doing something, they
mhm,
said something that hurt my feelings, rather than speaking my truth, I
mhm,
go, "Put ice cream in my mouth because it stops me from saying my truth." Does that make sense?
yeah. Oh, that totally makes sense. Right, 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 where the food is a way to try to shut yourself up,
Yes.
which is the opposite of what you really need.
Yeah, and that is the theme of my whole life, was speaking my truth, that I
Yeah,
never did. I learned it in childhood. I was programmed or trained, whatever, I was
yeah,
taught that
yeah.
that just don't deal with your emotions. I was told literally told, "Don't get so excited," even if it was good stuff. "Don't get so excited. You'll
Wow.
make yourself sick," she would say.
Oh,
So so
man.
and it
Wow.
wasn't in an evil way, it was what
Sure.
she knew. And I
Yeah.
heard this on a podcast yesterday, I think it was. Our parents, this is hard for some people. Our parents
Mm.
had parents.
Yeah. Yes.
That's a big statement if you stop and think about that. If we're angry with our parents, guess what?
Mhm.
Our parents had
Yeah.
parents. That was
Yeah.
another shift for me, but that one came way later, for
Uh,
me to be able
uh,
to see that there was
yeah.
no evil in that area in my family. I will say it that way, in the family area.
Mhm,
It was more
mhm,
of what she had learned. It was more of what my father had
mm,
learned, and it was just parenting
mm,
style. I'm still
mhm.
amazed that we have children and then there's no real handbook on this kind of
Yeah.
stuff. This is
Yes. Totally.
or there is so many handbooks that there's just all everything spread out so thin that no one's really
Yeah.
getting the bulk of it, if that makes sense too. But
Yeah. That absolutely makes sense.
yeah,
Absolutely
so
makes
our
sense.
parents had parents.
Yep. Yeah. That's such a nice, clear, simple way to talk about, like, the very complex process of, developing empathy for people who hurt you.
Yes, and I will s and very, very clearly, I had a lot of rage. I had a lot of anger. I
Yeah.
had
Yeah.
to move through that first. So do not think
Yeah.
that I just suddenly went, "Oh, this is all great." No, it was a lot of
Yeah.
work. It was a lot of
Yeah.
work of sitting down and going, "Why? Why did
Mhm.
she say that? Where did that come
Yeah.
from?" And then,
Yeah.
it really came down to trying to understand the women that came before me in my generational line, what
Mhm.
their struggles were and
Mhm.
how that played out in my life, the things
Yeah.
that they didn't say or weren't
Yeah.
allowed to say. So at
Yeah.
least now I have moved through a lot of it, and I'm on the other side, and I'm able to help others. I understand my family, I understand myself, and this has given me better relationships,
Yeah.
much more. I'm in a very healthy, romantic relationship now, which was
Awesome.
never the case in my life,
Awesome. Wow.
but
Awesome.
it didn't just happen. The miracle stories are wonderful to hear. They're
Mhm.
wonderful to hear. They give us hope. But
Mhm.
this takes work, and like I said
Yeah.
earlier, it takes grit, it takes
Yeah.
determination, it takes being willing to believe you have the right to exist, and that is the fight of getting back up that 8th time, or what is it, rise was it fall 7, rise 8, something it's a Japanese proverb or
Oh,
something like that.
I've
Just
never heard that, but I love that.
I this one was posted everywhere in my apartment when I first started
That's
because
a
it
good
was
one.
I needed to remember to get back up. It was
Yeah,
very hard for me to remember that I deserved to get back up, but
yeah,
my therapist
yeah.
gave me that breath.
Yes. Let me ask you this, like, I know that, people doing this work will hear the idea like Dr. Sarno would say something like, "You don't have to, leave your job, leave your marriage, whatever, in order to heal." And that is very much true for a lot of people. And some people also really do make massive changes in their lives. Like, and I hear that in your story. And some people need to. And I do think that I think both are true, that, like, some people you can live the life you live, and as long as you do this work, you can become a person who can tolerate that life and be emotionally and physically and pain-wise be okay. But for some people, that's not the story, and I do think maybe some people get a little held back from making changes they need to make just because some people don't need to make the changes. You see what I mean? So,
Yeah.
do you wanna just speak a little bit to what it was like for you to, as part of your recovery journey, do massive things like leave your marriage, move away from home? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, it was massive, it was massive change, but I think I had hit such a rock bottom that anything would have been better for me.
Yeah.
But I do agree with you. You do not have to make and again, that's what I said in the beginning, you do not have to have the trauma with the big capital T. Right?
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
do not have to make these crazy changes. I've
Mhm.
worked with people and some of the things that they start learning is how to set a boundary in a relationship,
Mhm.
and it actually starts
Mhm.
making their relationship healthier. In my
Mhm.
situation, it was not a good situation to be doing that in, but in
Yeah.
most situations, in most of my
Mhm.
clients, it works that way, like, there may be something they're not speaking their truth on. So, we get in there and we role play, we practice, we do things, we say, "Okay, what would you say here? How would you handle this?" And so then they start actually saying the truth, and they start
Mhm.
working together. Um,
Mhm.
I think relate like if we're talking specifically about relationships they start breaking down because the repair's not made after each issue. So
Mm,
that's a
mhm.
normal marriage that maybe starts having a little bit, but if the authenticity starts coming out where both sides, then you can work through that. You do not have to leave somebody just because you're having conflict,
Mhm.
unless it's dangerous conflict.
Mhm.
That's a
Mhm.
different
Yeah.
story. Um,
Yeah.
but I've worked with people that they realized their job was the problem and they had to change it and they completely did like what I did, a complete 180. They jumped the whole other way. I was in accounting.
Wow.
I did accounting, and I did
Wow.
for construction companies that my husband's owned, so that's what I did. I was in math,
Wow.
but the funny thing is that was not the job I really wanted, it was what my mom thought I should have, so it that's how I got
Yeah.
into it. So
Yeah.
the big change really was me just saying, "This is who I am, and this is what I wanna do."
Yeah.
And when I
Yeah.
would like I said, when I was, like, 14, I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a psychologist. I
Yeah.
wanted to help people. I wanted to help people
Right.
live a better life. I'm doing it in a
Right.
very different
Yeah, and
way.
you're doing it now, you're doing it now, and honestly, I think it's so powerful to, um, come to this like, I mean, I just truly believe that people like you and I can help, people in ways that many psychologists with doctorates who don't have the same, like, fire under their ass
Yes.
around, like,
Yes.
what they've been through personally. Like, I'm sure that, everybody does good work in the world, but, like, you and I can offer something that people with doctorates actually can't offer, and I truly believe that.
Oh, I 100% agree with you. I had been in a room with people that worked with people with pain, and the way they were talking, I was like, "They don't get it."
Yeah,
These
I'm
were
sure, I'm
doctors,
sure.
and I've
Yeah,
talked with pharmacists. They don't get it. They
Yeah,
don't.
of
Some
course.
of them. There's some great ones, so
Yeah,
we wanna
right.
clarify there. There's some really, really great doctors out there, and I have had some, but for the most part, there's a lot going on in our medical field that the doctors cannot their hands are getting tied. They
Yeah.
cannot do what they really wanted to do when they first started practicing medicine, which is actually help people. And because when
Yeah,
you get cut down to a 7-minute appointment or encounter or a
totally.
14-minute encounter, how can you
Yeah.
get in as to how long have we've been talking almost an hour and got this
Mhm.
deep into this stuff? This is what we do. This is what you and I
Yeah.
do. We actually hear,
Yes.
we see
Yeah.
these people. We hear their
Yeah.
stories and once
Right.
I think that is it's not the only thing that heals these people and ourselves, but being heard and being seen, it just elevates them in a totally different world, and then
Yeah.
they're like, "Oh, he sees me, that he understands what my experience
Mhm.
is." And then
Mm.
when with the lived experience, we can say, "Yes, this happened to me too. This is what I did." And someone with
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
just education I don't mean just, but education is very, very
Mm.
important,
Sure.
but the lived experience brings it full circle.
Yeah. 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 I totally agree. Um, t 2 things. First, I just wanna follow up, jump on what you're saying about, doctors. Yes. I did not know I mean, I worked as a social worker in the medical field for a while. I did not know until that time because doctors, I feel like, are thought of, culturally as, like, they are I don't know, like, it's a respected position.
Yeah.
I did not it was not until I became a social worker in a medical setting that I was like, doctors do not feel respected in medical settings for the most part. They are worked to the bone the same way any other medical provider is. They're treated like garbage by the system. And I just want to underline what you're saying. Yes, my experience with working with doctors is a lot of them can't do what they want. They can't really help people in the way they would like to. They feel their hands are tied, and the system that we are trying to heal in is just like so
It
bad.
is, it's
It's so
awful.
bad.
It's an awful
Yeah.
and I said this earlier, and I'm real careful when I say this because I don't want people to say, "Oh, I shouldn't go to my doctor," because that's not what I'm saying.
Right.
But in
Totally.
my
Agreed. Yeah.
situation in pain management, I was in pain management for a decade or more, and nothing was changing. Nothing.
Right.
It was just
Right.
pill
Right.
shot surgeries, go home, pill shot surgeries, go home.
Yeah.
But again, to their
Yeah.
defense, that's all they were able to give me because
Totally.
that's
Totally.
the insurance saying this is what you're allowed to give and this is the order
Yeah.
you're allowed to give it, not what the patient needs. Oh, you just got me on my soapbox.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. Good.
But yeah, not what the patient needs is what insurance says you should have, right? And I know that the
Yeah.
chronic pain community, sometimes they do get very frustrated and angry with the doctors. But I will say, and I've been there, I did it too. I was upset with the doctors, but now I'm starting to really understand the whole system in a different way. And
Yeah.
they want to help people, but they can't.
Totally, totally, and I think a lot of doctors, if they knew about this stuff, they would be happy to share pamphlets, information, books, podcasts, like, they'd be happy to, but it's just a lot of them, it's not on their radar. Um, Let me ask you this as we're winding down,
Yes.
I mean, you've already given us so much advice that really I mean, I really hear you loud and clear on, speaking your truth has been so foundational in your healing. And I hope that people listening to this, because that's certainly something we talk about in this podcast. Like we talk a lot about attuning to your true self. And I see speaking your truth as being right in line with that. But any final pieces of advice that you would like to give to this audience, things that you work on with your clients in your coaching practice, things that a lot of people need to hear, like any piece of advice you'd like to offer.
I think the first one, and most people do not like this one at all. You have
Lay it on us.
you have to change the goal. The goal can
Mhm.
no longer be, I want to get out of pain, or I need to stop my pain, or I need to get rid of my pain. That can no longer
Yeah,
be the goal because when you come at it from that way, let me explain it before people get angry. It keeps you
yeah,
stuck fighting,
yeah.
fixing the Fs that,
The
Howard's
Fs.
come up with. I think he's up to
Yeah.
7. All
Yeah, yeah, just for listeners, there was an episode, "Stop doing these 7 things and heal your chronic pain." All the 7 Fs are covered. But
Yes,
yes, go on.
yes. That keeps you in your head, you're fighting
Yeah,
and the pain. So the way try to help people understand this is to start practicing and adapting any intervention that has been proven to lower central sensitization of the nervous system. And here the other big thing about this is the answers are different for every single person. One size
yes,
never fits all with your nervous system. You've
agree.
got to think about this lived experience. Yours is very different from mine and vice
Mhm,
versa. And there's no one in this world that's had the exact same lived experience. It's almost
mhm,
impossible. So,
mhm.
um, should I explain central sensitization just like one sentence or so? Like,
Sure, yeah, yeah, yeah,
that's just
yeah,
when the
sure.
nervous system gets really, really good at producing pain, and the volume knob on pain stays up, and rather than going back to base level like it's supposed to, we need pain. It goes up to 10 when you need it, and we take care of the broken limb, whatever the problem is, and then it goes back down. But what's happening with central sensitization is that the pain gets bigger and faster. It reacts
Yeah.
faster to things. So that's kind of what that is. And the interventions, real quickly, just a few that I run through the main ones are pain neuroscience education. Because if you don't understand pain, how it works, you cannot influence your pain experience.
So
Yeah,
important.
and it's amazing to me because I'll ask people, "Has anyone ever explained pain to you?" And I have not had anyone say yes yet. That's been from the
I believe you.
no one.
Yes,
Um,
I'm sure.
so
Yep.
that, and then there's somatic tracking, which everybody's heard this. That's just turning towards the sensation. And again, most people don't like this one either because I'm gonna say the word
Mm,
with curiosity rather than
yeah,
fear. This
yeah.
one is one that is very difficult for someone who has been in pain for a decade or more, or even sometimes less. But this one, be very careful if you haven't built up safety first before you start doing somatic tracking. That's my belief. For someone
Mm,
with a decade of pain, that's terrifying. So we've
mm,
got to build some
yeah,
safety there. Self-awareness,
makes sense.
that's the recognition of unconscious patterns and behaviors. You've gotta start looking at
Mhm,
what's going on underneath the iceberg that you can't see.
yeah,
Things like that and sleep. Sleep is a big one. It does not matter. We know that poor sleep turns the volume up on everything. It doesn't matter
yeah,
your mood, it makes you
yeah,
moody, all the other things, grumpy.
yeah.
So it increases pain too. So that all of that to say, to change the goal from how do I get out of pain to how do I calm my nervous system so it stops creating this protective mechanism, these sensations that's a language saying you need to do something differently. So
Mhm.
so once we
Yes,
start
yes.
doing that, then we're no longer trying to fight the pain or just fix it. You're actually changing the pain at the source. So that's one of the biggest things that I probably try to help people understand is you've got to change the goal.
Yes. That I love the way you said, like, you have to change the goal, and the way you preface that with, like, "I know you're not gonna wanna hear this," because, of course, people come to this work, myself included. I got into this because I was like, "Oh, great. This'll make my pain go
Yeah,
away,"
yeah.
like, like, of course, that is the core of this, like, yes, it will help with that, and if that's the goal, yeah, you're gonna be stuck, and
Mhm.
I even I go there myself, like, I will still get flares of hip pain, and, of course, I want it to go away,
Yeah.
but that energy doesn't help, like, you are right, I just know to the core of me that you're right, the goal cannot be make the pain go away, it can't,
Yeah.
like, you gotta change the goal, and let me just say just the other thing that really stands out to me in what you're saying there is, the unconscious patterns. You don't know what you don't know. I Every single client I have ever had who I've, like, gotten good traction with on, chronic pain, there's always an element of unconscious patterns. And that's why I think working with a professional is so helpful for people, because you don't know what you don't know. You can't see your unconscious patterns. And truly, I do think that's true. Every chronic pain client I've had where we've gotten good traction, we have had to work on unconscious patterns. Like
Yeah.
they are there. If you're stuck, if you're listening to this and you're stuck, just know that that very well might be active for you, and getting help is a good idea.
Absolutely. That yeah, it helps because in you and I, we're doing different things. I'm coaching and we're doing it in different ways. Open-ended questions, helping them find. So that's what I explain coaching is. I help people have a conversation with themselves. That's my job.
Yeah,
And so I'm
yeah,
having to pull this out of them. So I am not directive unless they specifically ask for it or they specifically have something and I have a story from my experience that can help them, land whatever they're trying to do better.
mhm,
So yeah, the unconscious pattern, you don't know what you don't know. So helping with working with somebody, or expressive writing, just sitting down and writing it
yeah,
down until you're exhausted of writing, and then you can when you get it out on paper, your brain you can see it. It just
yeah,
opens it up. So that's another option
yeah.
too.
Yeah, 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 and I just to say, to build up the field of chronic pain coaching, truly what you have to offer to people, I mean, I'm just thinking, having offering the mindset, like, you can sit with someone and you can know, like, your pain is not dangerous. I can help you, um, change the goal. I can help you befriend and allow the pain and get to know what it means, versus I can, you know, there are a lot of trained therapists and doctors who don't know that. And so what they are offering is like, "Oh, I'm sorry you're in pain. I can listen to how much it hurts. I can try to offer suggestions, but it's just such a shot in the dark." And you actually have a solution you're offering. I just want to make sure people. I do think sometimes, I don't know, people. I know for a while there was like AT&S had coaching with AT&S was like, should we include coaches or not?
Yeah.
Thankfully, they did decide to include coaches, but and good thing, because like I just think it's important to acknowledge coaches offer a lot.
Oh, yes, and we've gotta work all together because as you heard my
Agreed.
story and you did not hear all of the different interventions that I tried. One of these days, I'm gonna get my date book down and we'll put them all down in a list because this was, like, since 2016. I
Yeah,
so it's not
yeah,
it's yeah, yeah, so it's not just
it's a long road.
one thing, it's many different providers to make this happen.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, totally, totally. Okay, where can people find you if they want to reach out and wanna, work with you or learn more about you?
The easiest place would be my website, which is, mypaincoachllc.com. I am on LinkedIn, that's my name, Cynthia Austin, and then it's a dash, my pain coach, Facebook at my pain coach. I'd also like to mention that on the website, I have a free resource. It's called Why the Advice Just Breathe Doesn't Work, and it's complete
That's a good one. That's good.
I like it too. So, it's
Yeah,
completely free and you do not have to put in an email. You just click on it and you can read it right there. So, you're not having to give up your email or anything like that. I always try to give out information and it's not gonna cost you anything too. So, and I have a newsletter that I send out, also, so they can sign up for that. But it's got all the information about my program, about what working with me, things like that. On my website. So anybody who has been through the system, been through the things
yeah,
like what we've been discussing today, and nothing is changing, um, contact us because let's see what's possible. Even if you're
yeah.
doubtful that this might work, you never know. So you might as well check it out and just see. So my website again is mypaincoachllc.com.
Beautiful, and all that will be in the show notes, and yes, listeners, if Cynthia's voice is resonating with you, call her, email her, go to the
Yes.
website, check her out. And thank you so much for coming on. This has truly been a pleasure. It's so fun to like get into this stuff, because it's like, Yeah, back to the fire under your ass. Like,
Yeah.
I feel it from you, and I feel the same way. It's fun to talk about this, so
It
thank you
is.
so
Oh,
much.
thank you. It's lovely to join others who are just as passionate about this and helping others in their lives. So thank you.
1000%. Absolutely, absolutely. And for everybody listening, this has been Mind Body Medicine for Chronic Pain, and I will talk to you next week. If you're looking for a therapist, you found one. And you can decide, does my vibe resonate with you? Therapy is an opportunity. Therapy is an opportunity to tune into you, to learn to feel more comfortable being yourself, to feel more comfortable with your emotions, and to feel more comfortable existing in the world in your body. Do you have difficulties in your life? Maybe it's chronic pain, maybe it's something else. Maybe you want to become a person who likes yourself. Do you want a therapist to help you? And would you like me to get to know you and to help you? That is actually an option. You can find me at SeanHershey.com or MindBodyMedicineForChronicPain.com. Both go to the same place, and if you're looking for me, I'd welcome a message from you. SeanHershey.com, MindBodyMedicineForChronicPain.com, and you can request a free consultation.